Hello, good morning, rise and shine. Welcome to the breakfast show, Sunrise Daily, coming to you live from here in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital. I'm Kayode Okikelu.
Might I say rise against the odds this morning because there are many of them.
Definitely.
Fuel scarcity, the traffic. Welcome against all odds to Sunrise Daily on Channels Television. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Malkwe?
I don't want to talk about the hallmarks of Lagos. Well, good morning and welcome from Abuja, the nation's capital. I'm Malkwe Ogun Yusuf.
Oh, what a day.
I have to remind Kayode sometimes.
It's okay. I mean, we can always, but you know, something we share in common these days, the fuel scarcity. It's in Abuja. Apparently it started from Abuja, found its way all the way down south. So we've had it in Ibadan or your state, now Lagos and other southwest states. It's been it was a messy day yesterday at the bus stops, you know, seeing people stranded. And you know that there's a lot of construction going on in Lagos, so there's the traffic on the one hand, and then people trying to get fuel.
Add to it the fuel scarcity.
And then people trying to commute. Usually it's a headache commuting in Lagos on an average day, but then with the fuel scarcity, the construction, goodness me, it's
so
a
traffic
lot.
is building both ways now. It's building on the main lane where they're doing the construction, and it's now building on the service lane that now leads all the way down to the filling stations, you know. And add to that again, Nigerians being at sea as to why this round of fuel scarcity. Many people are asking questions. What's the problem? Is there going to be another round of increase in the pump price of petrol? What exactly is the problem?
Well, we'll be asking those questions this morning, definitely. But there's something else we want you to pay attention to. Yes, there's so much happening, but then there are these other stories that you might want to also pay attention to. Mark?
Indeed, Kayode. Well, you know, and it's something that we oftentimes ignore, the fact that, you know, we're so consumed in our problems. I mean, look at this, fuel scarcity. And then, you know, we forget that, you know, there are other issues in society that we need to look after. And this is about the plight of people who are differently abled. Yeah, I know that in the world of disability, there are so many sort of languages that are used. And I think that this, I don't know why the visuals of fuel scarcity is playing on now, but we're talking about disability. And only recently, a very remarkable school which exists in Lagos, which has been doing something about trying to help people who are visually impaired or people who are physically blind, you know, celebrated 60 years of its own existence. It was a school founded by the Catholic Church, and and a lot of people have, I mean, a lot of people who have had a problem with their sight have graduated from the school and be able to be useful to themselves and wonderful members of society. So this morning, I think it's just a moment to pause and reflect on what it is that we're doing for people who are differently abled, for people who are not able to have the same abilities that, you know, we think everybody else has. I think that, you know, a society which neglects its own people who are differently able is not doing so well by itself. It's actually shortchanging itself, because what you're not doing is you're not fully tapping into the full potential that is available in every single person. One of the things that the principal of the school talked about was the remarkable list of alumni, and she talked about the fact that Kobam Sasukwa graduated from this school. Before, of course, he went to do other things. I knew he was at the University of Lagos, but this is where they learned the basics, the read and write in Braille. You have to ask, how many schools exist like this in Nigeria? Does the government itself own any? Are private individuals sponsoring any? Are corporate entities, you know, looking for how they can put funds aside? What exactly is government policy towards people who are differently able? That is a question I think we need to ask this morning, because we find that those people, families who have children who are differently able for whatever reason, they bear the brunt. It's like as if they take the blame for bringing those children into the world, and that's where it's left at. Everybody find your own way, and I believe that, you know, government really needs to do differently. But in the meantime, I think that this needs to be commended, the fact that this school has been in existence for so long, and they have made an absolutely positive impact on society.
You know, Mark, these pictures are heartwarming for me because I've had to do some work with persons with disability, particularly women with disability. Either they are visually impaired or physically differently able. I like the expression that you use to describe them. You know, so I find that women are more vulnerable, particularly to sexual and gender-based violence. A lot of them are single parents. They have either been impregnated by someone by accident or, you know, through rape, you know, or something like that, and have been abandoned, and they're left to take care of their children on their own. And then they do not particularly have an impressive means of earning, an impressive means of livelihood. You know, so it's really a difficult life for them. Single parents, you know, and what's government doing for them? Commerce is not, you know, very lucrative for them because people would rather not patronize them, or they don't have a ready market for them to sell their goods. So what are people who find themselves around those people doing to help such physically challenged persons? The ones we're seeing on the screen, you know, are privileged, if you ask me, because they have a means of education. You know, they have people caring for them. I could see their caregivers there. But those that I've had to work with, they do not particularly have people to care for them. So you're hitting the bullseye this morning by asking us to think, you know, pause and rethink again about how comfortable is life for those who are physically challenged, visually impaired in our society. How inclusive is our society? When you go to our institutions, are there ramps, you know, toilets built for physically challenged persons, you know? So how inclusive is our society, besides how sensitive we are to their needs? Kadi?
I mean, big questions you raised there. You can tell a lot about a society or a nation by how it treats its old, its very young, and people living with disability. Essentially people who maybe don't have a voice, as it were. I mean, the statistics vary. From 2006 census, about 3 million. Then the figure says, okay, maybe it's about, is it 31 million or 35 million people at least living with some sort of disabilities. So on the one hand, statistics is a challenge, really, because we need to even have a figure as to just how many people are living with some sort of disability or the other. And I know that there's always a categorization, but the truth is, some days somehow would maybe fall into that category, because naturally people age, and with age comes some sort of, you know, waning in strength. So maybe you can't walk as you used to. That's some sort of disability. So I think it's actually something we all share in common, or we would all share in common as time goes by. So it's important for all of us to pay attention to it. It was quite cheery during the Ekiti elections. I saw that INEC tried to pay attention to people living with disabilities. So they had like a register ensuring that they capture that and have figures. So that's the way to go, really. And it was good to see that people living with disabilities actually were given the opportunity to vote first. You know, I spoke with a 73-year-old man with crutches who said, well, he was one of the first to vote, and that was good. And I wish that we could, you know, translate that, allow that to ripple across all the sectors of our economy. I know politicians will come now and say, I'm going to provide jobs for all the disabled. I'm going to make sure that all government buildings and everywhere has ramps. But we need to ensure that these promises are kept, because, again, I would say you can tell a lot about a nation by the way it treats its old, its young, and people living with disability. Well, we hope that we've been able to at least shift attention from the challenges we're all facing. I know there's fuel scarcity and all of that out there, but don't forget that you're not the only one facing challenges. So let's try to make at least things work for others. We'll take a quick break now. I'll be back with all the major stories on the front pages in a moment. Stay with us on Sunrise Daily. Let's start off with the Guardian newspaper. As you'll expect, this is what you find on the front page. Despite 4 trillion naira subsidy, empty depots trigger new charges, petrol scarcity. You can say that again, really. You can see a picture that shows cars queuing up. I'm not sure, this is in Lagos actually. This is in Bagada, in the Bagada area of Lagos. But take a look at the riders. Fuel scarcity gets messier as depots run out of stock. Independent marketers push for hike, sell at 180 to 200 naira per litre. See, northern youths lament scarcity, demand sack of silver carry. And you see NLC saying Nigerians paying heavily for darkness with failed privatization. So is this for electricity or, well, people fuel their generators with petrol as well, so it might seem it might be on the electricity side with the grid and then with the fuel scarcity. But that's the reality, actually. You see people actually begging to pay 180 naira just to buy petrol. There's a couple of other stories on the front page. Of course, you see the other picture shows people queuing as well. Under that, you see over 21 million Nigerians fully vaccinated against COVID-19, says FG. That's about 10%. And it'll be interesting.
10%?
That's about 10%. So
still a far cry.
Yeah, but okay, let's not get into the COVID-19 vaccination discussion this morning. Oh, by the way, guess who's here? Chevelin, good morning.
Yeah, morning, guys.
The fuel scarcity.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy out there. So, you know what it is. This is the same scenario that happened in November last year. They say it's still the same problem that spilled over this year. So,
yeah, you know,
nobody's surprised in the country.
I was watching a video during the last round of fuel scarcity. It looks like something from the 70s. I don't think I was born then, and you could see the filling stations, you know, with a sea of Nigerians struggling, you know, with jerry cans back then, trying to get fuel, and you could see the queue of vehicles, you know, going far into the expressway. Back then, from the 70s.
Now they're taking it one step up. Now they carry their gen sets to the fuel station.
Fuel station.
So one step backward.
That's the one I don't understand.
Oh,
how people
boy.
detach the tank of their generator set and take it all the way to the filling station.
Can't believe this is reality. Really.
Honestly,
it's
goodness. A couple of other stories on the front page. 2022.
2022.
We'll definitely get into all of that, really, just to help you understand what's going on. I mean, it's one time too many. Let me just take this one quickly before we flip over to the next story. Weakest threat to prosecute Amechi, ploy to divert attention, says APC chief. So there's a lot still going on there, apparently. I'm looking for who will bail the cat first, at least from government, speaking to Nigerians about this fuel scarcity. I mean, that's what you expect. Moment after it happens, someone comes up and says, well, this is what's going on. We're sorry, we're working on it, and we'll ensure that this is done, and this will be maybe punished for dropping the ball.
Speaking about, did they follow up on, remember when they said that somebody imported that
dirty fuel, right?
Dirty fuel.
Adulterated fuel.
What happened afterwards? I mean, I wasn't around, so I thought, oh, the usual.
The usual.
No,
the usual,
yeah.
usual.
Why are we not surprised?
It's sad, but that's where we are. The Guardian newspaper for you.
And from the Guardian newspapers, let's flip to leadership newspapers this morning. And there's a very disturbing story on the front page. 50 remaining hostages threatened by snakes, scorpions, 9 feared dead.
Oh.
And the top headline is captioned this way: 85 days after Kaduna train attack. That's what happened 85 days after Kaduna train attack. That's more than 2 months, running into 3 months now. 3 months of being away from their families, of being away from the comfort of their homes, of being away from their jobs, if they have some, their businesses. 3 months of a difficult life. Be traumatic. Okay, so away from that big story, let's go to the top corner of leadership. 7 years after opposing PMB's election, Urubebe joins APC. I recall that's a very popular minister of Niger Delta during the government of former President Goodluck Jonathan.
So I always
that
say,
made
guys,
history on the day of election.
Expect anything in this country. That's what these guys do behind the scenes. Don't kill yourself or break your head for these things. Well, that's just what it is. There you go. Who would have thought? I know, right? Who would have thought?
You can't beat them, join them.
Join them. Well.
Goodness.
Interesting. Worse energy crisis looms over global supply shortfall. That's another story, something for you to chew on, maybe also worry about.
They've been chewing for who knows how long now.
That's the leadership newspapers this morning.
Yeah, let's see what Daily Independent has. Who knows if it's going to be any different from what you might have seen out there. So there you go, their big story. Private sector growth sluggish as energy costs impacts companies. Well, it needs no telling, does it? Because it's not just the private sector, but almost all the sectors. No, wait a minute. I think I'm wrong on that one, because especially when you see headlines like customs, immigration, they all give themselves, well, government gives them targets as to how much money they can rake in, as though they're a business concern, competing with the private sector as to who will rake in the most revenue. And then there you go, they declare a lot of, sometimes you just wonder. But look at the right here, diesel price may hit 1,000 naira per litre in days, ascribed to manufacturers. I read somewhere where they were talking about it may be 1,500. So that's what's going on. And you know, reading these headlines is not just headlines. The impact, the physical impact that this has, because it's going to affect companies big time. And you know, when these kind of things happen, it always comes across as though nobody is in charge. Wait, is anybody really in charge? If somebody were in charge, how come these prices just keep going up with reckless abandon? And when it does go up like this, can somebody remind me any scenario where it goes up and then comes back down to a reasonable cost, rather than all of these artificial costs that we see in almost all the sectors? There you go. And I look at this at the bottom strip as well. Privatization of power sector, a complete failure. NLC says Nigerians paying heavily for megawatts of darkness, as they say. Yeah. And to make it worse, elections will go on. They will come and tell you all sorts of things, as to what they've done before, why you should give them a chance to do it again, in spite of the economic challenges that we are all going through. Food for thought, I guess. That's Daily Independent today. Agba?
Vanguard newspapers, they have something about the elections. Look at this. No law for placeholders in lieu of running mates. That's according to INEC. Yeah, this placeholder thing we've been hearing. INEC is saying something about it. Page 5 will fill you in. Says no party indicated placeholder when submitting nomination forms. Kabiru Masari filled withdrawal form as APC running mate. That's according to a source. And a court stops INEC from ending voters registration June 30. We're yet to get order. That's from INEC. PDP, SDP back extension of CVR exercise. APC followed legal advice in selecting running mates. That's according to Adamu. Page 5 is where you'll find details. And just in case you're wondering where the Minister of Petroleum or Minister of State for Petroleum is, because we all know that the Minister for Petroleum is the President and he is in country, but his Minister of State, who usually is the face of the ministry, is somewhere where you want to see the story on inside the paper, page 9. But here he is pictured left with the Algerian Minister of Energy and also the Nigerian Minister of Petroleum, Mohamed Mamadou, at a meeting on the reactivation of the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline project. So it was done here in Abuja, from what we understand. But the question is, what exactly is happening with fuel? And we need answers from either the Minister of Petroleum, who is the President, or the Minister of State, who is the face of the ministry. And you also have other stories here, which might very connected to this one. Commuters stranded in Lagos, Abuja, Oyo, others, as fuel scarcity bites harder. That is also there. Looking on top of the nameplate, again, gunmen kidnap traditional ruler in Plateau. I'm not in support of your protest, Mbaka tells Adoration members. And look at this. Anglican bishops blame Nigerian politicians' elite for country's woes. We'll leave it there for Vanguard newspapers.
Well, let's pick up the Nigerian News Direct with this lead. Power outage, 5,000 megawatts electricity generation not feasible by July 1st. Stakeholders. It's 5,000, not 50,000 by the way, 5,000. That's where we're at right now. Oh goodness. See the rider directive ploy to mislead Nigerians. That's according to experts. And again, just riding off the back of what Marco said, someone needs to be telling us something really. Or it means three things, or one of the three things or more. Either that they don't know what's happening, so anyway, they're oblivious of what's happening, or they don't care about the plight of Nigerians, or maybe they don't know what to do. I mean, it's one of those three, or perhaps more options. So which one is it?
They're doing something with Nigeria and Algeria.
Because I don't see any of the ministers queuing at the filling station trying to get fuel. Do you see any one of them?
That'll be the date. They're not queue. Oh boy.
Gosh. There's a couple of other stories. The fuel scarcity also makes its way there. We can no longer operate at loss under hostile conditions. That's coming from IPMAN. A thread will definitely be following, as well as other stories right there for you on the front page of the Nigerian News Direct.
And from the Nigerian News Direct, let's take a quick look at Daily Trust newspapers this morning. And the big story has to do with the president's cabinet. Lull in ministries as Buhari yet to replace Amechi, Onu, others. You know, I recall a report by our State House correspondent in which that question was asked, and the information minister's reply was that Mr. President would replace those ministers as soon as possible. Now, how soon is what we do not know. Now, let's take a quick look at the riders. After defeated primaries, ex-ministers lobby to return. Interesting. Rivers, Ondo, Imo, three others not represented in cabinet. And lastly, President unreasonably slow. That's according to Dons. And presidency is yet to reply to that. That's Daily Trust newspapers.
Well. Who knows what?
Well, let's quickly take a look at New Telegraph for you. And they have this one, voter registration. Court stops INEC's June 30 deadline. Fixes June 29 to hear substantive suit. We're a law-abiding institution. That's according to the commission. So looks like everything these days, people just go to court. Well, it's better than, you know, going to war or, you know, taking up arms or doing something that you ought not to do. At least that's the legal way to go. Pages 5 and 8 will fill you in on what exactly the suit is about and maybe the relief that they are seeking. 2023, votes to change your situation. Gumi tells Nigerians, urges INEC to extend registration to rural areas, IDP camps, as Northern Can tasks Christians to obtain PVCs. There's this disclaimer here, Obi, I never said 70% of Nigerian politicians are lunatics. Page 4 will give you a little more clarity on that. Look at this, Kaduna train attack. We've seen the story earlier, but New Telegraph also has it. Snakes threatening lives of 50 victims. That's according to negotiator, says only government can end their agony. Kaduna church attack, terrorists release village head to mobilize 100 million naira ransom for 36 others. What exactly is happening? I don't know. I really do not know. But perhaps we leave it there for New Telegraph newspapers.
Well, yes, indeed, Mark. I mean, you can, you're speaking for a lot of people out there because they are also befuddled at the moment. Hey, but you can send us a comment or two, you know, how some of this can turn out. But just give us a moment. We'll be back and talk about what is going on concerning the fuel situation in the country. And you can weigh in by all means. We're back in a moment. Don't go away.
members of Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria have shut down their stations, not because we are striking. We are not on strike. Rather, business environment has been very, very hostile to us, such that we can no longer do business under this condition. For you to load a liter of petrol, you pay in 162 naira per liter. You now have to add the cost of transportation, which is between 6 to 8 naira, depending on the distance.
Within Lagos or outside?
Within Lagos. If it's outside Lagos, it's much more than that. Right? So if you add 8 naira to 162, you already have 175. 170 rather. And this product is regulated by government, and government wants us to sell at 165. We have not even added the handling charges at the depot and the running cost at our stations. You know what this says now, and you know how epileptic power supply is. We run on generator. For as much as you open your station, you are on generator, using diesel at 800 naira per liter. There's no station in Lagos or anywhere that uses less than 50 liters per day. Calculate that, put it on top. So our members can no longer sell at 165. In fact, there's no reasonable businessman in this business that can sell below 180 naira per liter. So it is not as if we are on strike.
Welcome back. Well, yes, as you've seen, we're going to be discussing the fuel situation in the country, and we've joined by Billy Gillis-Harry, who is the National President, Petroleum Products Retail Outlet Owners Association of Nigeria, Petron, who joins us virtually from Port Harcourt. We also will be joined by Chinedu Okoronko, who is the President of Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, from our studios in Abuja. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for joining us on the program today. Let me start with you, Mr. Gillis-Harry. We go through this time and again, and many just can't fathom why we always have to do what they say, the same thing, and expect a different result. Well, you are in this business, so could you break it down for Nigerians? Why are we going through this yet again?
Well, good morning, Chamberlain, and everybody of channel, and also good morning, Nigeria. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be able to discuss this very troubling issue. Well, we are back again to the same kind of circus: fuel scarcity, the reasons, the difficulties. I think that there should be a day and a time when, as Nigerians, we should set a timetable to stop this. The simple truth is that supply is not efficient and supply is not adequate. You can hear my colleagues who are addressing the same issue, that the cost of running our retail outlets today is completely unfriendly, to our banking and financial businesses. And the supply for this particular PMS, and even diesel, by the way, is not efficiently put to ensure that prices and product is available. So that's simply the situation. And this is why we keep going back to the point that deregulation will be the answer. If a full deregulation is pronounced and it is clearly defined that these are the terms and the rules of engagement in deregulating the sector, I think we should stop. We should not see this kind of queues or this kind of challenges anymore.
So why is supply suddenly a problem?
Well, supply has always been a problem when these kind of situations come, because as retail outlet owners, our focus will be to deliver to the buying public what we get from our NNPC partners and the PPMC there. And if there is not adequate supply from this particular, arm of the trading, chain of petroleum products, there's no way we can sell, because we are not importing. We want to import. Yes, we want to import. At the moment, and we want to run the refineries.
So at the moment, NNPC and PPMC should be answering the question as to why there isn't that supply coming to yourself and your members.
Well, I think that's the right thing to do. That's the right thing.
Because the thinking has been that, well, it's not essentially because of supply. It's because there's unfavorable business conditions. So you can't sell at the expected, is it 165 naira, because when you add on the other costs, it comes to about 180. So the thinking has essentially been, this is primarily with the retailers saying, business is not good for us. You're shortchanging us. So let's renegotiate this, essentially, not from the supply side.
Well, that is very correct. A couple of days ago, we were discussing this on the roundtable, and we looked at our operating costs, cost of diesel, cost of running our retail outlets, cost of logistics to take products from the depots to our retail outlets. It's not a very easy thing to do, and I still stay within the limits of 165 naira, when you're already landing at about 180, 183 naira per liter. So that is the situation across the whole country. And that is if you are even in the city. If you are delivering to Arochukwu, or you are delivering to my village, or you are delivering to some riverine area, the cost is even much more. And so the issue of talking about selling 165, which is the regulatory price, does not even occur anymore. We have to really get back to the drawing table, and all stakeholders must be sitting down to discuss and get answers to this problem, so that Nigeria don't get into difficulty. Look, Chamberlain, this morning you can't get to work if the retail outlets are not functioning. You heard the IPMAN chairman in Lagos saying that they are not on strike. It's simply that things are difficult for them to run businesses efficiently. Now, that is the same situation everywhere in the country. But with all the associations and their members running businesses at loss, you cannot be selling product that you landed at 183 to at 165. Who is going to pay for the cost to the bank? So none of us is having money to be able to buy product by ourselves. We're always dependent on one bank facility or the other. So it's very important that
but Mr. Harry,
everybody sees that, yes.
When you keep talking about cost, this product is supposed to be subsidized. What's happening to subsidy?
Well, the reality is that the subsidy conversation is a matter of another day. I'm sure you must have heard me on a number of times, not to repeat myself, to say that subsidy should not be what we should look at. We should look at subsidizing transportation, medical facilities, education, infrastructural development, and allow business of petroleum product retailing and services to the vagaries of the economics of demand and supply. There's no way you can tell us today that the subsidy regime is now going to come up with the values that will stop this kind of petroleum product chain queues that are already building up across the whole country. Abuja has been there for quite a long time. Lagos is there now. And of course, before you say Jack, other areas will be there today. Port Harcourt is in a good condition.
Mr. Harry, please, so many questions, rushing through my mind now. But first and foremost, are you saying that the current subsidy regime is inadequate to cater to the needs of your running costs and, your working conditions?
Well, as a retail outlet owner, I am not getting any bills settled by the subsidy. So it's as straightforward as that. If the retail outlet owner is getting values, for the subsidy, it should impact very positively in our operating costs. And we should not be talking about the cost of running our generators of diesel. We can be talking about running costs, a logistic cost that is, skyrocketing every day, and so on. So they're, not wanting to give, very poor reasons why government decided to get back to the subsidy regime. I, as a representative of the retail outlet owners in this country, will insist that subsidy should be applied somewhere else, not in petroleum. And because actually we need to ask everybody what is the impact of retail subsidy in your petroleum product consumption pattern, whether it's in diesel or it's in petrol. And right now, don't forget that the trillions of naira are only focused on just PMS. And today we are still talking about queues of PMS. So what's wrong? What's going on? We should ask questions and we should get answers to.
You also talk about supply. You say you're not importers and that the supply is not coming. Is it the problem of supply alone, or the working conditions are no longer favorable such that your running cost is increasing? Please clarify that. Is supply available and the problem is that the working conditions are no longer favorable, or supply is not coming at all? The NNPC has no stock.
Well, supply is coming, but it's not in the size that it should be anticipated. You have thousands and thousands of retail outlets in this country, and then at least minimal, every other day, one retail outlet should have at least 30,000 liters of petroleum PMS supplied there. If that is not the case today, then you will certainly know that supply is not efficient. So we need to improve that. NNPC needs to improve their supply, deficiency. They need to get to the table. They need to get every one of us involved in this solution. You cannot be a judge and a complainer in your own case. We as the last mile in the petroleum product distribution chain know the pain and the impact of when a market woman who is trying to ship farm materials or farm goods, to the market, and she cannot get a product to move her trucks because the bus is stuck in the retail outlet waiting online for 6 days to get fuel. We know what it is because she does not know PPMC, she does not know NNPC, she just knows that station. And then we are the ones taking the brunt. We are the ones that will be abused. We are the ones that will be, harassed. And at the end of the day, we are not the reason why we are barely making just minimal, income to stay afloat. And even that has been taken away from us. Right now, we are now trading on a deficit. So that is one. But the fact that the supply itself is not efficient is the major issue. Because once they are supplied, our job is to take the product from where the supply is from the depots and deliver so that Nigerians can be able to move around, do business. Every day, the retail outlets' economic value is coming out because that is where the movement, the energy, the gravitas to push our economy starts from every day. You must get to the retail outlet, get petrol to move to your studio, to move to your office in the villa, to move to even the NNPC, tower. That is how important the retail outlet is. And we need to be able to make sure that these retail outlets are properly taken care of by supply. And that's what we are trying to insist. That's why we look at this scenario and say, look, listen, we have almost 40-something thousand retail outlets across the country. These people can come together and, import petroleum products to augment what NNPC is doing. And that will help the country. That will help our industry. So there are two issues. One, the operating environment is hostile to us. The money calculations is not favorable to the business. The supply process itself is not favorable to us. And that is that's why we are.
Okay, let me ask Mr. Okoronkwo then, if the story of Ipman is very different from that of Petran. Are your people involved at all in the supply side of things, or you're strictly also in retail?
Thank you, Mark, for having me. I think we need to let the world know actually where this problem is coming from. Remember, the 4 trillion subsidy is still there. That is to say, government have done their own part. NMPC is the one importing this product and giving to tank farm owners. Of course, some of our members go there when we don't have enough to get from all these interland depots. Because
your members don't own tanks. They don't own, they're not tank farm owners.
Basically, some of our members, but the percentage is so minor.
Very small.
So because of the vandalization thing, it's easier for an NPC to now call these tank farm owners to have this product in their tank farm. Now, there is this template of government wherein everything is there. A situation where we are supposed to get this product at 148 naira 17 kobo. Now we are getting it at 160 naira plus transport. It will land in your station 170. Remember, when this product was at the level of maybe 3 million naira, we still make 10 naira. Now it's close to 6 to 7 million naira. We are still making 10 naira. Most of our members are no more in business. What do we do at this point in time? The regulatory agency, before we have DPR, PEF, and PPPRA, they normally move out. I think this is the time. Remember, we have energy crisis globally, occasion from Russia and the Ukraine war. So this is the time everybody must work hard. If we are getting this product at this template of 148 naira, there is nothing for us to, begin to profiteer. It's not. Some of our members are not even in business. That is why you heard the chairman of Ejibo Debo, my chairman there, telling the public what is going on. Some have just stopped business because how do you pay loans you have collected? How do you service this? It's very hard. The regulatory agencies have to go to these private depots. And because this product is still subsidized, so that everybody will play its own role. Not giving us bad name, we are putting this. We are not doing that.
Yeah, but we understand that. Was it just last week or so, the president, because we know that here in Abuja, the scarcity never left. It's been going and coming, and I think for the last 2-3 weeks now, we've more or less been living with it. Yes. So there have been questions as to what the matter was, and then it would seem that maybe there was questions around transport. The president approved 10 naira extra for transporters. Did that have any effect whatsoever on supply?
Well, it will go a long way. But if the cost of getting this product is not addressed at the depot point, we'll still be falling, back and forth, which is not proper. The price is fixed. This one that is still under subsidy. But when we can't get it, we are getting it at the depot point at 162 naira, another 8 naira. It will land, then you begin to sell with that same 10 naira.
It doesn't make any sense. Have you been able to speak with any member, any authority figure to find out? Because right now we've been told that the new, trying to remember the name of this act now that is in in place now.
Okay, PIB Act.
The PIB is now, the PI Act,
Okay, PI Act, yeah.
is now in force.
Yes.
And so you have a number of regulators who are responsible for this. There's a whole agency supposed to be responsible for downstream,
yeah.
and there's one for upstream, etc.
Yeah.
So I do not know if this new agencies have kicked in, or whether it's still the same DPR that's supervising as we used to have before. But there are questions as to what are the authorities saying about this? Because I'm sure that they must have been, if they were supervising what was going on from the depots, they ought to be aware and be able to say this is what is happening or this is not what is happening.
Good. That is why we are now asking them, please, even your organization, the media, can also come to depot and know what we are buying.
Yeah, but have you been able to ask them in private? You are the president of IPMAN.
Yes.
I mean, or you should be able to stand on certain leverage to ask certain questions.
Yeah, last 2 weeks we met with them, the MD of PPMC, and we extract everything. And we have also suggested that some of these, PMS in some of these private depots, we can designate maybe each of the zone. We have 5 zones within their own system, an NPC system. They can now designate one depot. Maybe those from Northwest, see where you go and load. Those from Eastern Zone, see your depot. Those from, just then they have the organigram. That way, it will reduce this private depot operation, making marketers. So he assured us that they are working on something, and pretty soon they will, see how they can come up.
That was 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Obviously, nothing has come out of that.
We're still on the dry. We need to get a tank farm. Those who will really give us. So we are calling some of our members who have really built this tank farm, see how we can work with them and have our product, in those warehouse, in those tank farms. It will stop this problem. Yes.
But I think at the bottom of this is price. I mean, you've talked about an energy
The price,
crisis.
an NPC gives their own price to private depot owners. Maybe they will go and pick from the,
from the ship, from the mothership and daughter
and
ship.
they put all their costs. I think that is where they are also quarreling, because costs of doing business now have really gone up. But if we are now under this regime of subsidy, that regulatory agency must also see how they will work. So everybody will remain on 165 naira. That, I think, is proper. 4 trillion is not a small money. And it could still go around if properly managed.
4 trillion naira is not exactly. In fact, it's a lot of money. In our current Nigerian situation, and a number of people are wondering, how can a country be spending as much as 4 trillion naira on subsidy, yet
for 18 months?
Yet there is fuel scarcity.
And that is, I've given you an idea what can solve that problem. By the time marketers begin to receive this product directly from an NPC, designated depots, there won't be any problem again.
There has been talk around deregulation. 1 minute NNPC will say, oh, there's no more, we're no longer paying subsidy. The next minute they've changed their mind. It's been back and forth, back and forth. Assuming they were to take away this subsidy and say, you know what, let everybody be able to pay so that the product can be available in the market and there can be some competition, which could most likely drive prices down. At what rate do you think that petrol will sell?
For now?
For now, yes.
You can use diesel as a means of calculating. Everything is high up there. But the only thing I think that will happen to this country, by the time we begin to refine this product locally here, it will go a long way. At least we would have cut off carrying the crude out and bringing it back. That transportation gap will go a long way in reducing some of these price, escalations. I think from what they also told us, that Port Harcourt refinery, they are really working on it. Maybe you people will take a walk and know what is actually happening. They said it will come up, the next, before September, October, And if that comes up, it will reduce some of this pressure. Like Dangote, I don't know when it's coming up. If some of these things will begin to work, we have this crude here. And I think government effort now should be channeled into making these refineries work.
But in the meantime, what are some of the immediate measures, apart from designating different depots to different transporters for different regions to go and pick up their products? Are we sure that the depots themselves even have the products? Because from what we're hearing now...
People are buying 162, which means the product is there. So I think they have put in all their costs. They have built it into the price. But government can also call them, all these things are priced in dollar. Vessel, hiring of vessel, some of the charges, NAMISA and everything is in dollar. But government can also call them and see how they ameliorate it by having something so that we can still have this subsidy that is still there for now.
I'm just wondering how this is going to work. I mean, because if you're talking about waiting till September when the Port Harcourt refinery...
I'm not saying. What I'm saying now is that these operators may be tank farm owners, and because of their costs, they might be putting out these things. But government can quickly call them today or tomorrow and say, please, let's see how we can reduce your costs.
Yeah.
Those who are paying in...
That is an immediate.
Yes, immediate. Those who are paying in dollar, they can take naira from them. Some of these things they pay in dollar. And dollar keep getting up every day. So we're looking at those low-hanging fruits, what we can do immediately to bring circle. I've given you one, designating tank farms for marketers. Then government they have done one by adding some transportation, to reduce the cost of transportation. It's only for those who are bridging. But those are the point of getting this product is still nothing has done. But I think if we get this product at that NMPC price, there won't be need for people to sell above 165 naira.
Anyway, let's come back and we'll talk about that, because NMPC says that it's still, from what we know, it's still the sole importer of petroleum products into the country. And they always talk about how they have at least a month's stock. Sometimes they say at least 2 to 3 months stock. So there'll be questions that if NNPC is the one that owns the petrol in those or petroleum products in those tank farms,
I told you earlier, some of them will be given paper to go and load from the coastal, from the tank.
Yes.
They will be at the cost of bringing this product.
Okay.
And that cost.
And keeping the product as well.
They're keeping it and also selling to members. By the time they calculate their costs, that is why I said government can now call them and see how they interface them so that things will still go down.
Okay, we'll take a break at this point. We'll be back shortly to discuss further on what long-term solutions are possible. Please stay with us.
Welcome back, Mr. Billy Gillis-Harry. Let's ask you, because talking about solutions now, because there's so many things going on, both for diesel, petrol. Some think that, look, the refineries that we have, why don't we just call whoever, whether it's your members, IPMAN, IOCs, and tell them, look, run these refineries, have a certain agreement, let the crude be refined here, fix the refineries, and then we'll sort this challenge out. Well, will that work? What do you think the solutions can be?
Yeah, I think that will work. Thank you, Chamberlain, for getting back to us. I think that will work. Government being in business as usual always has its own downsides. As practical business people, all the associations, major marketers, the depot marketers, independent marketers, retail outlet owners, NNPC retail, and every gas association can come together and make our refineries to work. Because at the end of the day, what is being refined is refined for us. And that is where we think we should look for our solution. Because when you have invested billions of US dollars in refining capacity and improving our refineries, we should be able to see that effect immediately. And we are talking about a process that has gone on for over 1 year. But I believe that if private sector is working and looking for how to bring in funds and technology into play, we certainly would have gone faster than this. So, because as usual, that is how it functions.
That will be on a long-term basis. But in the meantime, on the short term, I mean, NNPC, we're hoping to hear from them soon. They have a lot of explanation to do, since both of you talk about supply of this product, which is not being received and certain circumstances not being met. So they should be talking to Nigerians about what is going on. But on the short term, because people need to attend to their daily needs, you know how this society works, what can be done to solve this?
Well, I think the same solutions that has been earlier proffered, we as a very credible, patriotic Nigerian association and the most critical in the value chain of petroleum product distribution, we have also advanced the same kind of advice, where we can designate very strategic depots that can serve the teeming members of retail outlet owners across the country and ensure that these products, when they come, the associations are part of the process in ensuring that distribution is efficient. So that way, private depot owners do not, go way beyond, because the product is still deregulated. When you peg the price at 165, it clearly shows that it is deregulated. And it's regulated. So it's very important that that issue be addressed. Right. If we have about 3 depots in Port Harcourt, another 3 in Ogara, another 3 in Calabar, another 3 or 5 in Lagos, serving both the coastal areas and the non-coastal areas, we should be able to deliver petroleum product across the whole country efficiently. That is exactly what should be done right now.
But what is the arrangement as of today with the depots? Can you walk us through?
Well, the arrangement as it is today is that we apply to PPMC to give us allocation. That allocation is approved. We make payments. Then we wait for this allocation that have been given to us, that have been paid for, to be programmed by the PPMC for us now to go into the depot with our facilities and load. Most of these product that is loaded do not benefit from this new price review, for tankers that are going to be paid, upwards of about 10 naira or so. Most of these tankers will be serving just within the city. They are not bridged. So if they are not bridged, they do not have any of this price differential that is being proposed. So again, that does not help us, because product is product. If you move product from Port Harcourt refinery to Harristown or to Umuahia or to Nekede, the cost is heavy. So if we are going to, provide bridging this product, it should be all over the place. But right now, the immediate solution for this is let supply be beefed up by NNPC. And let us, as retail outlet owners, have ease of doing business so that we can pay and be sure that as you're paying, you're being programmed to load.
When you talk about bridging this cost, but before we had the Petroleum Equalization Fund, is that not supposed to bridge this cost? So why didn't it work at the time?
Well, the bridging cost as it is, first of all, some of these laws were made at the time that the entire country is not put in the map. Mm-hmm. So at some point, bridging is impacted in some areas and it's not impacted in some areas. You have riverine filling stations. You have stations that are in the hinterland. Some of these were not put in the program for bridging. So, for instance, if you load up petroleum product from Port Harcourt and then you are going to take it into Ido, Harristown, Buguma, all those areas that you have to cross the river. It should be equalized also. Now, that equalization today, equalization agency is submerged into the midstream and downstream regulatory authority. So, of course, it's still there, and the function is there. That is why today the proposal to increase payment to transporters have been made, and it's already holding. But we are now saying as retail outlet owners that we still suffer if we have to take product from one particular area to the other area, to some areas that are not put on the map.
So just to better explain to Nigerians, I mean, as you said, all they know is they go to the filling stations and there's no petrol. They don't understand this whole chain where you go to get from it. As of today, where do you lift from? What depots do retailers lift from? We
load from all the 5 business depots of NNPC. NNPC, as you know, operates the eastern area, which is Port Harcourt. That's a refinery, but we also have a depot in Aba and also in Makurdi and Enugu. So they load from there to the retail outlets.
So as of today, there are states, there are filling stations across the country that are not experiencing this. They're selling for 165 naira. Am I right?
Well, the only reason, for instance, in Port Harcourt, where I am today now, product is being sold at 165 naira. That's because some of them had products prior to now. And because of sales not being as fast as it should be, they had products which they have in their stations that they are selling now. Once that stock is depleted, we will get back to the same situation.
Well, truth is this, as a business person, once you see that the price of what you want to lift, the next set that you want to lift has gone up, you naturally increase the price of what you're selling now, because the thinking is you still have to take all that money to buy for the next supply. So I expect that naturally they should have increased it. But Port Harcourt, on the one hand, we have other parts of the country in the north, perhaps, or in other parts that are not going through this. Am I right?
Well, when product is in Port Harcourt, don't forget that Port Harcourt is also supplying to many other states in the country. So we have trucks that are loading out of Port Harcourt to Kaduna, to Abuja, to Lokoja, to Katsina, to Maiduguri from Port Harcourt. So now you can see. What did you say?
Pardon me. My point is that they are not going through this. I mean, we don't see the scarcity we're seeing in Lagos, in Abuja, for example, some southwest states, in other parts. So the question will be naturally, what are they doing differently, or what is different with them? I'll come to my next question, but please speak to that.
Well, I mean, as simple as it can be explained. Once there is product, in the retail outlet owners will enforce their staff to sell at 165. There is no retail outlet that will have product that will close its outlet. But if the product is purchased in the way that we have been told earlier, that the cost, gets inflated across the process, and even in Port Harcourt, for instance, product is landed at the retail outlet at 172 naira or 175 naira. There's no way they can sell less than 180 something, which is now going to run foul of the law. And we try as much as we can to encourage our members not to do anything that will fall, make them to run foul of the law.
Well, Mr. Gilisari,
so the answer to that is simply there's product in the retail outlet. That's why they are selling. Once that product is depleted, we'll get back to the same situation.
Again, as a business person, I think that's quite interesting, because you need to have enough money to stock up again. So naturally, they should increase so they can have money to stock up. But I'm not in this business. But I need you to respond to this, because...
let me answer that. Yes, as a businessman, I'm supposed to restock. Where am I going to restock? Okay. I'm going to restock only from the depots that NNPC apportions for me to buy.
And that takes me to my next question.
Depot or the private depot.
And that takes me to my next question. You said it's illegal to sell above 165 naira, but here in Lagos, you see people actually begging to buy for 180. Filling stations selling for as much as that. The usual, even taking 500 naira if you come with a jerry can and all of that. So much illegalities, as is why, is going on. So clearly people are breaking the law as I speak to you right now.
Well, again, it boils back to the same situation. If there is supply, every retail outlet within the range of 400 meters will have PMS in their stations. And if there is PMS in station 1, station 2, station 3, users have an option to go to every retail outlet and buy. So no retail outlet will then sell above 165. But in a situation where only one retail outlet is having product across 3 or 5 kilometers of road, of course, the scenario of any practice will come, and that's only because this particular retailer must have gone through quite a lot of process to buy that product to now sell in their retail outlets. So that is the situation.
And it's a sad one because, it takes its toll on Nigerians. But my concern is about long-term solutions. And I'm coming to you, Mr. Nkoronkwo. Would full deregulation of the downstream sector also include allowing marketers to import instead of this situation where the NNPC is the sole importer of petroleum products? And I'd like you to walk us through what that would look like if major marketers were allowed to import petrol. Would it address this situation? Would it ease it? Mr. Okoronkwo, the question is for you. Mr. Okoronkwo, can you hear me?
Let me tell you, we are major stakeholders in this business. For a board of downstream and upstream to be constituted without members of IPMAN or major marketers, that is the beginning of their problem, because we need to be there to work out things with them. Before the collapse of all this, we were part of PEF, part of PPPRA. But this new regulatory body now, none of the, we're not there. So how do you plan with these people? Before we can plan, we can do what we call surveillance, know what is going on everywhere. We know our members, no matter where they are. If you are giving product maybe to somebody who is in Kara Namuda, we can even monitor it. We have that system, that data. But when we are sidelined and we are not there, little or nothing we can know. They will tell you, look, you people are not in this board. You were in this board before. But I think that is where to start. In our presentation at it was PIB then, now it's PIA. Our position is very simple. Deregulation is the only way out, where government will have little or nothing to do in this business. Government in business, the delay, the hiccups is something you cannot imagine. But let us talk with this 4 trillion. That is to say, this subsidy. Let us physiate ourselves and our discussion on it. We must make it work. If the money finishes, we'll also see it. We know that things are happening. Product is going up every day. This little time that we have to manage, this subsidy regime, everybody must be involved. We should know what is going on. I have said earlier, this petroleum product, for it to go around, we must, in all those depots, be part. We have our depot chairman, we have our zonal chairman. Let them know what is going to anywhere. It is that critical right now. We must follow it. We are talking about solution.
So I think that apart from, the major, the inner workings of what is happening behind the scenes, because to the customers, Mr. Gillis Harris has pointed out, so the customer what they know. I mean, we don't know what your relations is with PPMC, DPR, if they're still in existence, or all the other government agencies or NNPC. What we know is that we go to the fuel station to buy fuel, and when we don't get to buy, then we're worried.
Yes.
It means that your stress levels are going to go up, and then if you're not able to buy in a jerry can, it's even more problems because you're wondering how you're going to fill your generator tank, especially in places where electricity supply have been really poor.
Very bad.
So these are the kinds of things that stress everyday, ordinary Nigerians.
That's correct.
Is there anything that IPMAN and Petron too can commit to ensuring that stress levels at filling stations, for instance, when there is disorderliness, when there are multiple queues, when there is a refusal to sell in jerry cans for those who need to go and put in their petrol generators, is there anything that IPMAN can do to ease the stress for everyday Nigerians?
Yeah, very good question. We can do a lot if we're involved in the planning and programming. When you are not involved, you don't know what is left. How do you plan? And you can only plan with what you have. Before, when these bodies...
What do you mean you don't know what is left? So you don't know what is left?
And the tank farms and everything.
Yes, but you know what is left in your own...
we sell.
That's what I'm saying. Is the manner in which you sell.
How?
So
will you hold your product when you...
No. What I'm saying is oftentimes it would seem that those who are at the filling stations are not bothered about how they are selling. So people can form as many as 5 different queues. People can come in through one gate and go in through another, you know, and it will seem that there is no order. And oftentimes there's no attention paid to that.
That one should be left for those buyers. If they put themselves in a straight line, who dispense? Nobody is going to drink this. What every businessman does.
You don't think that a businessman bears the responsibility to also ensure that people who are coming in are orderly?
Look at the case of what happened in one of the stations here, where there was this altercation between the army and those. It happened that I was even reading last night that that guy was shot and they took him to hospital. We don't know what has happened now. It is that bad.
You know why you say so? I mean, why I asked this question. Yes. You just said something about you don't know what is left. You're not involved in the planning.
I mean, in getting from the source.
That's what I'm saying. It's also the same thing.
You don't hold it.
That's what I'm saying. You don't hold it.
Yes.
But the customers who are queuing at your gate, they don't know what is left either. So you find out that they are in a hurry.
Desperation.
Yes, exactly. There's a lot of desperation to see how they can also beat others on the queue.
Good.
To see, you know, before the filling station shuts off and say, oh, we're not selling again.
Please, we should also see marketers as helping this country.
What I'm asking is whether marketers can help.
Those people who are on queue, can they arrange themselves and follow the line?
I'm sure they can.
Good.
If there is some instruction from those who...
a lot of people are in a hurry in this country, you know that, and they know it. You know, that was why in those days we had what they call war against indiscipline. War. It's no more now. Where on your own you just stand on the line and wait for your turn. Everybody must be involved in that. It's not marketers. You can come and give.
I know.
Give
because
order, but they will survive that order.
We know this is the current situation. We know this is what is happening right now. But this is this disorderliness, this chaos, is really what stresses. I mean, if people know that if I queue at a filling station in 1 hour or 2 hours, I'll get to buy, especially if the queue is moving and it's orderly, people might not really mind as much. But where there is total chaos, there's a breakdown or sometimes of law and order, you don't know when you're going to buy, what happens is that people distrust the system even more. So is it possible, I'm just asking, is it possible for marketers to know when there is fuel scarcity? Maybe they will get the cooperation of security agencies.
That is what we are doing right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, we are doing that right now. But you know, Nigeria, everybody is always in a hurry. The police, go to every station within even this Abuja, you see police there now. It's there. But in a bid to beat that ordinance, they will begin to do you know. And
they'll begin to do what, sir?
They will begin to shunt, you know, see how they can, you know, maneuver their way. And in the process, there will be this chaos we are talking about. But I think police, it is also necessary they get involved in it. Civil defense, all these military agents, they can come. This is a time where everybody must be involved in making sure that people don't suffer much. When you put your product in your filling station, you expect to sell off and bring another one. And if this noise is there, you can't even sell. So for us, we also suffer. The solution of every station must, you know, require police, civil defense, or even the army. For now, I think that is the way to go.
Now, I just wanted to quickly ask you about generators. Is there an instruction asking people not to sell in jerry cans?
Yes, there is. You know, some of them, that is why you can even see some of these people doing brisk business now. The whole idea is to ensure that people with car should have this product. But I think a jerry can, maybe 10 liter or even 5 liter could be allowed so that people can also use it in their house. There is nothing bad in it. I think we'll take up that with the authorities. Thank you.
Mr. Gillis-Harry, let's get your response on that first, because you know that a lot of people need fuel for basic things. But what is the directive? Did that directive come from who? The ministry, or is it not the fuel retailers themselves who made that law that they will not dispense in jerry cans? Because what we see, even as that rule or whatever it is subsists, folks who still sell with black market, they go with the same generator, they remove some funny things don't happen there. So they still go through the same process which you're trying to eradicate, and it's still happening. So what's going on with that?
Well, first of all, you know, buying in jerry cans is not illegal, but because of the abuse, the regulatory authorities try to put a nip on it. And we, as retail outlet owners, enforce that through our staff at the retail outlets. It's very simple to know who is actually buying petrol to use for their hair salons or their homes to pump water or whatever. So I think that is something that, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because we don't know, we cannot tell on the face of the person who brought jerry cans, it becomes difficult. As you know, right on the footage you showed, you can see, you know, young men and women running along with jerry cans, trying to offer 5 liters, 10 liters, 20 liters, 25 liters to motorists. So those are some of the things that we try to avoid at the retail outlets by not selling to jerry cans. But there should be a way, and again, you know, every time there's a problem, some permanent solutions should be sought to it.
Speaking of which, Mr. Harris, you know, if you do not sell to those who bring jerry cans to the petrol stations, the purpose of trying to separate the grain from the chaff has been defeated, because some marketers sell to those who, you know, sell as black market under the cover of darkness at night, and then we find them back again on the road selling to motorists on the highways. So is there a mechanism that can be used to regulate the process, you know, such that people who require fuel for genuine purposes are not excluded?
That's what I was trying to address. The last time, I think around early part of the year when the scarcity came up, petrol members devised a method by which we could ask 1 or 2 questions. But of course, the process is long. And if you are selling jerry cans and say 20, 25 liters, for every 10 jerry cans that has gone by, that is about 250 liters, which is enough to fill up some 2 or 3 vehicles that are running commercial vehicles. So they need to be careful with that must be looked into. But like I said, when problem comes, it also prompts us as practitioners in the business to also come up with creative solutions. So of course, this is something that we need to get back to the downstream regulatory authorities to be able to discuss, and also the weight and measures. That's also tried to enforce that from the Federal Minister of Trade. So somehow I think we should be able to come up with a solution where those who genuinely buy fuel for their hair salons, their water pumps, and genuinely should have some method by which they should be able to identify themselves. And I can assure you that in my capacity as president of the retail outlet owners, we certainly will look forward to making some moves even before the close of this week to make sure that the authorities agree with us on some methodology with which we can be able to work. And I believe both the independent marketers, major marketers, and that man who also own retail outlets will also see how this works together with the solution we are going to profile.
Well, I look forward to seeing how that will work, because I don't know if you ask them to bring their ID cards or maybe use a lie detector to be sure. Are you using it for business, or you want to use it for black market?
I don't think. Let me not discuss that on the
Okay, I know that's just by the way. No, really, that's just by the way. But let's talk about this. Just to be clear, really. Are you saying that as of today, there's actually petrol at the retailers, at the filling stations, your members' point of sale, but they're not selling because it's not, it doesn't make business sense for them to sell at a lower price?
Well, certainly not members that have the Petron membership stickers on their retail outlets. Any station that have Petron membership stickers on their station are duty bound to sell what they have. We are committed to the public.
At what price?
We have to be sincere about this. In Port Harcourt today, some stations can sell 165. In Aba, some stations can sell at 175. In Owerri, some stations can sell even at 180 because they find it very difficult to access the product. Now, will it be better for us as retail outlet owners to make sure we struggle one way or the other to get the product in the retail outlets in a strategic location for the public to have access to and use to drive the economy?
So essentially,
yeah, we certainly will want to serve the public. So our process will be to make sure that we get the system to collaborate with us and give us the best answers.
Okay, so essentially they can sell at 180 as far as they have, and people.
Yeah, they can. So long if you have a petrol sticker on your list, and you can go around and check. Any station that has the petrol stickers in their station and they have product and they don't sell, they'll be sanctioned.
I wonder how we look out for those stickers.
We do not pay lip service to that.
Okay, just to be clear, pardon me, Bukola. Who's then getting the subsidy? If you can do that in less than a minute, because clearly Petron is not getting subsidy. So who's getting this 4 trillion naira subsidy?
Well, if you ask me, I will answer it very honestly and truthfully. Who is importing the petroleum product? It's who is importing the petroleum product that is also getting the subsidy payment. And if the subsidy should be passed on down to the value chain up to the user, then we should be able to see the positive impact on it. So, but right now, I don't have a bill that I'm posting to NNPC or PPMC to pay me subsidy. And certainly you that is buying product from me, also you're having the same problem. So we cannot tell right now who is actually being paid subsidy, except if the importer has a way of getting the subsidy. That's the reality.
Morning. Mr. Billy Gillis-Harry, who is the national president of Petron, that's the Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Association of Nigeria, and also Mr. Chinedu Okoronkwo. Thank you so much. He is the president of the Independent Marketers Association of Nigeria. Gentlemen, thank you for your time this morning. And we hope that you help us maintain some order.
We're already working on that.
And, you know, help ensure that Nigerians are able to get what little you're able to get at your stations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, we'll take a break at this point, and we'll be turning our attention to Ekiti. It's still a review of what transpired, but this time from the perspective of the umpire. Please stay with us.
Adjudged to be largely peaceful, Saturday's governorship election in Ekiti State is not without its flaws, and that's according to foreign and local observers who participated actively in the poll. For Yaga Africa, the electoral umpire needs to adopt a more transparent information analysis of permanent voter cards collected, as it also asks voters to take a further step of holding politicians accountable.
Yaga Africa commends the people of Ekiti State for their resilience and commitment with non-violent elections. We encourage voters to sustain their participation in the electoral process beyond the elections by holding political parties and candidates accountable for their campaign promises. Yaga Africa encourages INEC to uphold the principles of transparency by publishing a total number of permanent voters' cards collected in Ekiti State on its website.
In his assessment, the British Deputy High Commissioner says the poll went well and more could be done to check voter inducement ahead of 2023.
I was in 16 polling units. Our teams were across the whole of Ekiti, and I think we saw a peaceful election. We certainly saw an election where the materials from INEC arrived early. INEC were organised. I think we saw the BVAs performing perhaps better than they have in the past, and I think that's very encouraging. I think it's really important that any culture of vote buying is addressed, and ahead of the 2023 elections, people feel that their vote is their vote, and indeed it can count for them, and there shouldn't be a need to buy a vote because the choice they make is the important choice for the future of their state and their country.
The citizens on the streets of Ekiti rate this election high in conduct and security, and they seek the best of performance from the incoming governor.
For the bow, as we call him, I would like to focus his attention on, giving youth employment. And one of the youth in the state, and this is the problem we are passing through here, we youth, we need employment. You see a lot of youth, roaming about, a lot of ladies, they have nothing to do. They're roaming about, no job.
We want him to be so focused on security, because I think Dr. Kayode Fayemi has laid a very good foundation. All the killings, kidnapping that we are experiencing in other states, those things are not even discovered in Ekiti State because of the foundation. So we want Aoyebanji to improve on the legacy of Dr. Kayode Fayemi.
With the elections now over, the governor-elect is expected to ensure that he leads the state as a united entity to actualize its full potential.
Congress, APC, secured the majority of votes and fulfilled all conditions, effectively affirming your
Well, I did say that we're talking about a review of the Ekiti elections, and we have with us this morning Mr. Rotimi Oyekomi, who is the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman. You're welcome once again to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
And I say once again, you know why I say once again?
Yeah, I know.
It's been a while indeed. But Ekiti now is now the latest in the line of INEC's preparation to the big one, to the big season of 2023. And there have been questions as to how INEC performed. INEC, I think, in some areas has received commendation, and there are people who still say that there's plenty of room for improvement. From INEC's perspective, how would it rate itself as an organization?
Well, that's a question I'll be biased in answering.
Indeed, I understand, yeah, but I mean, let's give room for your bias.
Right, so that's it. And we are quite pleased with what our stakeholders have been saying because they were involved all along in the planning process. We released the timetable a year ahead, and we prepared very well for the elections. We trained our ad hoc staff. Recall that we conducted the Anambra and the FCT elections, where we studied the hitches with regard to the beavers. We normally accredit observers when we want to conduct elections, and they write reports, and we consider those reports. We also receive reports from our field officers that tell us exactly what happened, what worked well, what didn't work well. So going to Ekiti, we were very much prepared. All the areas where we noticed that there were glitches, there were weaknesses, we tried to correct them, especially the area of logistic deployment. You know, this time we didn't put our sensitive materials in the central bank. They were all in our offices, and we deployed from there. But I think we should also commend the transport unions because they cooperated with us. We don't have enough vehicles to, you know, deploy all these materials.
So you're still using the NURTW?
Definitely, because we don't have enough vehicles to actually perform the deployment processes during elections. So they brought their vehicles, the required number, and they performed according to the Memorandum of Understanding, the terms of agreement that we signed with them. So, but for us, the most important thing is the cooperation of all stakeholders. We've always said it, that when all stakeholders cooperate with the Commission, we will deliver. And this is a good example of that synergy that is needed to enable us perform our functions. When you don't disrupt our elections, when you allow us to, you know, do what we are supposed to do, when voters come out and comply with the instructions, we'll have a good election. And I think that what happened in Ekiti is for us an indication that we need to work harder. You know, success here means more work, and we have Osun coming within the next 3 weeks, and we'll go into Osun with as much zeal as we conducted the Ekiti governorship election.
Let me ask you about voter turnout. We know that roughly 700,000 plus people were registered, accredited for, registered for the elections, according to what INEC, you know, released for Ekiti.
Overnight, Ekiti has about 988,000 registered voters. But about 76% of that collected their PVCs.
Their PVCs. So we knew that they potentially could vote.
Right.
But from what we see in terms of the voter turnout, it's still less than half of that which turned out or who turned out to vote.
Right.
From INEC's expectation and from what we have seen, the trends that we have seen before now, was that low, or was INEC expecting more people to show up at the polls?
Well, it's low when you look at the total number of registered voters and even the figure of those who collected their permanent voter cards. But I think it's an improvement on, for instance, Anambra governorship election. Of course, Anambra was different because the security situation was fundamentally different from what we have here. But I think that...
so Anambra might not be a good benchmark?
Might not, because of the circumstances.
Yes, of course. So what were you benchmarking the expected turnout against?
No, because we carried out a lot of voter education. And even our partners, our development partners also assisted our civil society to, you know, sensitize people to come out and vote. And Ekiti has a history of participation in elections. So we felt that we could have, maybe it was too much an expectation, you have as much as 50%, you know, looking at the number of those who collected their PVCs. But I think that, you know, when all the reports coming from our field officers, we can then interrogate what actually happened. But I think going forward, with the awareness that is being created right now, I think we'll now begin to see a better turnout in our elections.
Okay, let's take a break at this point, and then from here, we'll take the conversation to Lagos.
All right, welcome back, Mr. Ekomi. You know, the chairman of INEC spoke about the challenge that they were facing with vote buying. And he said actually that they had reconfigured the ballot boxes in terms of how they were going to appear, such that they eradicate and defeat that purpose entirely. But on the day, and as many who observed the elections who were there did say, that did not reflect. People were voting, they folded their ballots, they showed other political parties who they voted. It was in very close proximity with some of those who were inducing them, so vote buying was rampant, meaning what the chairman had said didn't happen on the day. Why was that the case?
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to disagree with the notion that vote buying was rampant. And I base my argument on the figures of polling units that we have in Ekiti, 2,445. Now, when people say vote buying was rampant, what percentage of those numbers of polling units reflected vote buying as an activity that took place on that day? Nobody has given us the statistics. Vote buying did take place. And I also want to tell you a little bit of history. Recall that in 2018, it was this same Ekiti governorship election that we conducted that this vote buying issue reared its ugly head. And there was so much noise at that time, and people called on INEC to take action. And arising from what happened in 2018, the commission met with stakeholders to find solutions to what we can do to curb the vice. And stakeholders suggested to us that, number one, we should stop voters from taking their cell phones to the polling booths. Then we should stop them from taking also any photographic equipment into the polling booth. And we reacted by applying those rules where we conducted the Osun governorship election that came immediately after the Ekiti governorship election. So we tried our best. First, we reconfigured the polling booth. It wasn't like this as it is before that 2018 election. And then we changed the position of the ballot box to put it in the open. And then we said that people can stay around the polling area with their cell phone, but at the point of going into the polling booth, you are not allowed to take your cell phone in. And you know, that created some form of reaction at that time. People were then accusing us that, okay, we want to, maybe we are trying to hide the result. We don't want people to snap the result that we normally paste at the polling unit at the end of the election. But that wasn't the case. We then quickly reacted and no, we are not asking people not to bring their cell phones to the polling unit area, but you can't, as a voter, accredited with your ballot paper, you take the cell phone into the polling booth. And arising from that as well, the commission invited the EFCC and the ICPC into the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security because they have the backing of the law to deal with such negative activities. And as you can see, in the Ekiti election, the EFCC moved against some alleged vote buyers and sellers. And we look forward to a period when they will be successfully prosecuted.
Which is
now,
why...
we will continue to try our best.
Well, Mr. Oyekomi, if I could
we'll
just comment...
continue to try our best.
Pardon me. So essentially, you just literally agreed that there indeed was vote buying. And I wonder what you then mean saying that it wasn't rampant. Because if you speak to the Ekiti people, they tell you that the term Dibo Kosebe, which is vote so you can get money to cook a pot of stew or whatever, was rampant. That was essentially what they were being told. Dibo Kosebe, vote so you can repay your loans, vote so that you can do all of that. So that was essentially the order of the day then. But I'd like you to take a look at this video. Mr. Oyekomi, because this essentially was what played out during elections in Ekiti over the weekend. So you had people voting. Yes, they took their mobile phones, definitely. So you had people voting. So you see the man, he's done, you know, thumb printing. Then he folds the that ballot paper. You can see him. And then he literally shows, you know, the agents that this is who I am voting for, in the clear view of everyone. I'm sure you can see that, Mr. Oyekomi. And I think that was how this vote buying played out. So you have someone watching to see if you indeed voted for his party, then he takes note. Can you see that? So he shows that this is who I'm voting for, and then they go behind the scenes to share the money. This is what I witnessed personally. So would you agree that this arrangement is fundamentally flawed and, of course, allowed vote buying?
Nigeria is a dynamic society. You respond to a problem, but it doesn't mean that you have solved all the problem. But I'm interested in figures. That's why I was saying that, look, you need to provide the evidence to prove that this thing was rampant. We have 16 local governments. We have 2,445 polling units. If you tell me that vote buying took place in 50 to 60% of the total figure, then I will agree that it's rampant. But if it's in isolated cases, and you know, when the media focuses on something, I'm a journalist, I'm proudly so I know what I'm talking about.
Okay,
when the media focuses
in that
on
case, Mr. Oyekomi, do you have figures yourself to tell us this wasn't rampant compared to what you had last elections?
That's what I'm saying. Our field officers will bring their reports and we look at that, and I tell you, at the right time, the commission will give a full assessment of what happened in Ekiti. And these are things that we are going to address.
Mr. Oyekomi, why was the ballot box so positioned in full glare?
Why was the what?
The ballot box so positioned such that, you know, those who are standing around can't see. Why was it so positioned?
Well, that's not a bad thing to put the ballot box there. But, you know, human beings are dynamic. If we had put the ballot box at the back, people will allege that maybe, you know, some people will stuff the box with ballot papers. We've been dealing with all manner of allegations, and those allegations informed some of the decisions we took as to what happens, you know, when voting takes place on election day. If you try to hide the ballot box and people don't see it, you create another problem. But the video clip you just showed me, I don't think that was the situation in all the polling units. Yes, I agree, vote buying is a problem. It took place in some places, but I don't think it was rampant enough to affect the legitimacy of the person that was elected. For us, it is a process that we focus on. We make sure that we provide a level playing field for people to cast their vote, and we expect the other agencies saddled with the responsibility of dealing with such things to do that. We have security agents around, we have EFCC officials around. Our officials are busy with the election proper, so we cannot be focusing on vote buying at the time that maybe 3, 4, 5 of our officials are attending to the registered voters that turn up to vote on election day.
There are ways that the ballot box doesn't have to be in close proximity. It could be a little way further, such that whoever is folding anything for any agent to see will have a hard time looking and seeing what transpired. That's on the one hand. But secondly, could you tell us what is the position of INEC or the law concerning these placeholders who are trying to meet the deadline to submit their lists and their vice presidential or deputy governorship candidates?
Look, I'll just tell you what the Electoral Act says. The Electoral Act says that for the purposes of nominating candidates, there must be a convention, and INEC must be invited to that convention. And the process will either be through direct, indirect, or consensus. Okay? And there's another clause in the Electoral Act that any political party that fails to comply with the provisions cannot assume to have nominated anybody. So I'll stop at that. And I know why you're asking that question. And, you know, all the things that have been published in the newspaper in the last few days, INEC has not issued any statement. We have not issued any document to say this is a list of candidates for this position for the 2026 general election. And if you look at the 2023 timetable and schedule of activities, we have a timeline for that.
Okay, so to tell us straight away, can a political party replace their vice presidential candidate having submitted the list to INEC?
Well, substitution is allowed under certain circumstances.
Such as?
Okay, so what I'm wondering right now is what are the key lessons that INEC is taking from these elections going into the Osun elections? What key changes can we expect to see?
Well, we are going to follow the same template because this Ekiti template was quite good. But like I said, I wasn't on the field when the election took place. So we need to quickly look at the field reports that our electoral officers and other ad hoc staff or collation officers, you know, will submit, which I'm sure will be coming in the next few days, where, of course, you will have a portion where you have challenges. First, you know, one of the most important things in an election is deployment of materials.
Yes, I find it interesting that you have praised the logistic aspects. I'm sure that INEC itself was wondering where it was going to keep its materials since it was no longer keeping it with the CBN.
Right.
But people are asking and wondering whether that's going to be feasible for the general elections, keeping materials in the offices, especially since the Air Force too might be overstretched trying to deliver materials to all of the different states that we have.
I think the Commission will take a decision on that. I don't know what the Commission is going to do, whether they're going to follow a particular template, I don't know. But what I'm saying is that deployment of materials to polling units is extremely important. You know, people will start counting the time. The moment that you don't open the polling units in good time, people will start complaining. Under our regulations, we are supposed to open polling units at 8:30 and close poll at 2:30, provided that all those on the queue as at that time had voted. But if you still have people on the queue, you can extend the voting period till when the last person on the queue has voted. So the good things that happen, we'll take note of it. The challenges that will be harvested from the field reports that we are going to get, we'll make sure that we take care of that going into Osun. I know Osun has more local governments than Ekiti. Ekiti has 16, Osun has 30, and Osun has more polling units. So we are going to cover a wider geographical space than Ekiti. And I think that we are prepared. We've been preparing for Ekiti as much as we prepared for, we are preparing for Osun as much as we prepare for Ekiti. And I think that the template, the one we have now is good, and we'll continue to improve on it.
Okay, let me just confirm from you, because we saw this newspaper headline saying that INEC is not aware of placeholders. But is it possible that the candidates can swap the names of their vice presidential candidates? Is there a deadline for doing that?
Well, I don't know what people are talking. It's just speculation.
That's what?
Like when people ask me, I ask them, did you ask the party?
Indeed.
And the party said?
Indeed. As a matter of fact, we have one, if there's anyone I'm quite certain of, because the interview was conducted right here in our studios, is that of the candidates of the Labour Party. The Dr. Doyin Okukwe, whose name was submitted as vice presidential candidate, confirmed that indeed he is a placeholder in the meantime, until they're able to reach a substantive conclusion on who precisely will be the running mate to their candidate.
Well, you know, it's a controversial thing I don't want to talk about, but we have our rules and regulations. And when you are substituting, there are conditions. For instance, if a candidate dies, you can substitute. You know, if, for instance, you nominated somebody and before the date of the election, the person dies, you can substitute. But I don't think that there is any place in our laws for that term called placeholder. So I don't know where the term came from.
Okay,
so it's strange to us.
So for the people who did not participate, because there are CSOs that have asked INEC to also take cognizance of people who participated, for instance, in the presidential primaries, but are now miraculously holding senatorial tickets. What's INEC going to be doing about that?
It's a very simple thing. The Electoral Act is clear on the nomination process, on what should be followed. The political parties are aware, the commission is aware. And the Electoral Act is clear that if political parties don't follow what is in that law, then they can't assume to have nominated anybody. But, you know, like I said, I'm not the commission. The commission will decide on whatever happens. I don't know what name has been submitted. I haven't seen the list of any political party. I'm not in a position to see that. But I know that when the time comes, the commission will take a decision and an announcement will be made.
Okay, we'll leave it there. You've said you're not the commission, and the commission will take a decision. I think we'll have to hold on to that. Who precisely should we talk to as speaking for the commission?
You are talking to me.
Oh, indeed.
Right.
So you will still be the one to come and...
No, what I'm saying is that,
yes,
you know, the commission comprises the INEC chairman and the national commissioners. That's the highest level of the commission.
Okay.
So all decisions affecting the commission is taken at that level. So when you hear the commission announcing something, that means that the INEC chairman and the 12 national commissioners representing the 6 geopolitical zones have met, have taken a decision, have had a quorum, and the decision has been passed. That's what I mean by the commission.
Okay. So we'll have to thank you very much for coming on this morning. Mr. Rotimi Oyikomi is the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC chairman, and we're talking about a review of the Ekiti elections. We have a few emails here. This one is from Paul Agbolade, who says, I cannot understand why petroleum product marketers are talking about selling at a loss when trillions of naira is budgeted as subsidy. Is the subsidy not to bridge the price gap between the actual landing cost and approved retail price of petrol? Are the marketers not the beneficiaries of the subsidy? That's from Paul Agbolade. Big questions he asked. We posed some of them. Doesn't look like the marketers are the ones benefiting or getting the price differentials to bridge that cost. So many more questions to be asked.
Absolutely, Markwe. Well, take a look at this tweet from Festus Akimboyewa saying it should worry Nigerians that the federal government is spending 4 trillion naira to subsidize PMS. The price of fuel in UK has been rising relentlessly for 5 weeks and no subsidy. An average fuel price in the UK today is £1.89. That's 1,500 naira. Time for regulation. He says we can't eat our cake and have it.
And Professor Imonoka Inakina says government ought to be implementing the policies and programs of the PIB. This sector should be completely deregulated to allow people or firms with the wherewithal to manage and run this important sector that is the live wire of Nigeria since independence. This is travesty.
And Pastor Law says until locally based refineries start working fully, the experience will continue to be horrible. This federal government promised to fix these refineries so that this extortion will stop, because it's the common man on the streets that's suffering the most.
Well, Henry, Awunono, and Comrade Dario, we see your tweets, but so sorry, we're out of time. Thank you so much for sending your contributions this morning. Never mind the fuel scarcity, we still wish you a wonderful day nonetheless. Thank you for watching. I'm Markwe Ogunyoso.
Don't worry, the fuel scarcity is a placeholder. I will be substituted soon. I'm Kayode Okikiolu.
I wish it were that easy. Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
Yeah, and I wish I cannot mind the fuel scarcity. Well, thank you for watching. I'm Chamberlain, so we'll see you next time.